Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. Guten Tag. So that's the first time since 24 years that when I want to see you and to talk to you, I don't go to Berlin. I don't take the flight. I have to switch on Zoom.
No.
So I see that you are in your room in the Schaubühne, in your office, right? So tell me, what happens now in Berlin when lockdown starts?
We are continuing to rehearse new shows. I had a run of Vernon Subotek's on Saturday, which I showed to the members of our theater, workshop builders and costumers, costume design people, so that they can see what we've been working on, because we were scheduled to have a premiere on
the 5th, right?
Yes, on the 5th.
Yeah, on the 5th. Yeah.
So this premiere is cancelled, and we locked down the performances of the theater yesterday night. But we have Simon Stone starting rehearsals today with Yerma, and Simon McBurney, who started rehearsals 5 days ago with Michael Kohlhaas. So
you are allowed to rehearse.
Yes, we are allowed.
You can come to the theater and to work, but without spectators, right?
Yes, we are allowed to rehearse for the moment. Maybe this changes also. And we have our actors, our members of the team, which are rehearsing, tested twice a week, so that they kind of build a special bubble where they only meet amongst them, so they can approach each other during rehearsal. They can't kiss, they can't embrace, but they can be close, they can touch.
Okay, so according to these new rules, did you change something in the performances you used to perform in September, October? So, no.
No, we as you might have seen, we are not showing our repertoire. We only show new shows. So we've been showing Per Gynt and a new show by Milo Rau, Per Gynt by Jon Bock and Lars Eidinger. And these two shows premiered. Per Gynt just premiered before the first lockdown, but is anyway a monologue.
Yeah, and, I saw it.
And Every Woman is also a monologue. So we didn't need to change anything. And the new show, my show, Vernon Subotek's, where we had like a lot of people on stage, 50 people all in all. We've been careful, but we've been tested twice a week, so that's why we could do it.
And do you know about other theaters? Did they have to change the mise en scène if they showed something different from one-man shows?
Yes, some of them did, but as far as I can see, most of the theaters did show new shows where they respected the distance, and some were looking at their repertoire and trying to find a way to respect the distancing rules. But that's a minority, I think.
Yeah. What was your feeling? How did you survive? How did you spend these months of this pandemic, of the first lockdown? Because there are two different attitudes to this strange situation. Some people say this is complete disaster. I mean theater people. Other people say that, well, maybe there is something good in this situation, that you can stop a bit, rethink what you are doing, prepare new shows, so that's not bad. I was dreaming about such situation when I cannot perform or rehearse, go to the theater, sitting at home. So what was your feeling?
Well, in the first moment I thought, okay, this is a great chance to kind of read a lot and work on new things at home. But we've been so busy with our online program and with our rescheduling of our normal program, of our productions, of our seasons. So I was busy the whole day. I was sometimes I started having a video conference at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the last video Zoom meeting finished at midnight sometimes. So, and this online program to put up was a big challenge, because we had to talk to all the writers, to all the people getting royalties, to all the people on stage, the directors, in order to convince them to give us the right to show this with a very small fee. And so basically I was busy till end of June with all this work, and also with talking to the writers who did write texts, especially for us, which we then showed online. Very interesting program, I think, with a lot of, also with a lot of international writers and thinkers. So yes, I was dreaming of a time out, but it was not a really time out. The only thing which changed is that I wasn't on a plane every weekend, which was good for me, which was good for my physical health and for my mental health probably also. And then when summer was over, I was busy again with a new show.
When I was exploring the plans of some theaters in France, in Germany, in other countries, I understood that there were two different strategies in the planning for the close future. One of them is to try to implement the program, so to postpone something, I don't know, maybe to change the schedules, but still to do everything which was planned before. And the second strategy is to rethink the whole program and to try to invent new projects which would face the new demands and new situation with social distancing and so on, trying to do more one-man shows, new projects, online projects. I know that one of the theaters in Berlin even changed the set for one of the performances, and the performers, the actors were supposed to sit in the different boxes, so that was the new set for the performance, so according to the regulations. So which strategy seems to you more clever, and what strategy do you follow with the Schaubühne? Between two or combined, or what's the strategy now?
Well, of course we changed a lot. We changed the fact that we were focusing on monologues and on shows which we rehearse new and respect the distance rules. So if you want, that was our strategy. This is also true for what's happening at the moment for the two Simons, Simon McBurney and Simon Stone. They are, of course, trying to set up a normal show, but this show has to respect the fact that they can't come close for a long time, they cannot kiss, they cannot embrace, they cannot fight, they cannot dance on stage. Only alone they could dance. So I don't think it's very clever to now do only shows which put actors in boxes and separate each other, because what I do believe and what I experienced also is that people, when they go to the theater, they do not necessarily want to again hear about the pandemic, again be concerned and worried. Maybe they want to come to theater to see something different, which brings them to another moment in life, and then after the theater they leave again. I mean, of course this pandemic is a catastrophe for the whole world. We as Schaubühne, we are dealing anyway with the change of the society, with the change of how we've been living together and respecting each other. And so talking about the content of our shows, I don't see necessarily a big need to change the content.
Mm-hmm. I see. And what about the audience? It would be interesting to compare what happens in Berlin with the situation in Moscow, because when the lockdown was on, when we were in the lockdown in spring, everybody was saying that, oh, please let us open the theaters because the spectators, they want to come back. So they feel great desire to come back to the theaters. And when the theaters did open, we understood that that's not true. That not all of the people rushed to the theaters immediately, and for some theaters it's quite difficult with the box office, even in this chess pattern, so-called, when you can sell only half of the tickets. I think there is the same in Berlin. Yeah. So the structure of the interest of the spectators changed a lot. So, for instance, the majority of the tickets are sold, if they are sold, last 2 days before the show. So you can see that 3 days before the show, nothing is sold, and then when the people understand that the show probably will happen, that the new lockdown didn't come yet, so then they buy and go. But still, in the same time, a lot of theaters are half empty, even if we are talking about the 50%. So it's 25% of the audience. So what's the situation in Berlin? Quite similar, or you feel more demand from the spectators?
I can only talk for our theater, for the Schaubühne, and we have been very much surprised because we made the opposite experience of you. When we went online with our ticket sales, it was during one day everything was sold out till the end of November. I don't know why this is. Maybe we have a very loyal audience. Maybe we have a very good system of regulations, respecting the sanitarian regulations, and our audience does know this, that they are safe here. We've been installing in the summer a new air condition, So our space, the air in the space, is changed every half hour completely with air from outside. Maybe people do know this, or maybe there was a big need for them to go back to theater. We had a lot of very positive reactions of people saying, oh, after 6 months, we could see theater at Schaubühne again, and it was like coming home, and you're so important for us, and this is so important for my life to see your shows. Yeah, I know that it's different for other theaters in Berlin. I know that that a lot of theaters are struggling, that there are a lot of audience members who are afraid to come back to theater. Maybe it's also because we have a very young audience, that these young people are less afraid of the pandemic.
Mm. Then maybe if you mentioned the audience, then I must say that we have a lot of questions from the students of Territoriia, yeah, from the participant, invisible for this year participants of the educational program. So maybe later I will ask you some of them as well. And one of these questions, and also my question, if you mentioned about the audience, I think that it's not young audience, because your audience, for me, of your theater is like an ideal audience, because it's always the mixture. When I come to Schaubühne, I see that this is the mixture of audiences. Sometimes I see the older people that probably used to go to the old Schaubühne in the 80s, yeah, or even 70s, mixed with the young people. So it seems to me this is the main thing about the audience, this is the great result you achieved during last 20 years, not only to bring youngsters, but to mix them with their older people, yeah, and they feel very comfortable together. You feel it in the audience.
Yeah, that's right. We have like 20% of our audience, I'd say, is over 60 years old. But if you go to other theaters in Germany, you will see that 80% of the audience is over 60. So that's why I'm saying we have a young audience. In fact, that some of them stayed since the 70s or the 80s. I met a lot of older members of the audience who told me they stopped going to the theater of Schaubühne in the end of the 80s and during the 90s because they didn't like what they saw. But then they came back when we started in 2000. So we regained audience members. Because maybe we have a link to the early Peter Stein Schaubühne and our artistic profile.
Yeah, I wanted, since we started to talk about the audience and the time, I wanted to thank you very much on behalf not only of myself, but also on behalf of a lot of my friends and the Moscow theater lovers for the online program you made in, I would say, in the end of March and in April, with all that masterpieces of the 60s, and that was extremely strong impression for me and for a lot of my friends and colleagues, because of course we read a lot about old Schaubühne, and I know that you personally, sometimes you are very critical in your attitude to the past and in your attitude to some of the directors who were working in the Schaubühne in that time. That's normal. But at the same time, I must say that to see during 2 weeks all these masterpieces we have read about, but we never saw of Peter Stein, of Klaus Michael Gruber, of Luc Bondy, of course. So, and some of them were absolutely astonishing, that they're completely alive, like Klaus Michael Gruber's production, which were for me complete discovery. So thank you very much for this program, and it gave another dimension of the story, of the history of this fantastic house you are directing. You have been directing since 20 years. It's completely new phase now, which you built, you composed, but this whole history of the company, although it changed, of course, almost 100%, and the audience, as we talked, changed, and some of them left, but when came back. But this history, fantastic history of this brand of Schaubühne, just was reopened for us. So thank you for this program.
Yes, you're welcome. I want to add something here, because you were saying I was always critical with, or I had a tendency.
Not all this. Sometimes.
I have to correct you here, because I've been always a big admirer of what the Schaubühne was since its beginnings, and even more this participation model, which they installed in the beginning of the 70s, was for me groundbreaking, and was for me a model which I then reinstalled in 2000. So, and I always tried to contact and to make interviews with Peter Stein, with Klaus Michael Gruber, who's dead now, unfortunately. Luc Bondy, I was very familiar. We had a lot of meetings. We've been working together. But I must say that the older generation, Peter Stein and Boto Strauss, that they were very reserved in meeting and in exchanging. And I felt this big pity that there was no communication between the generations. Different to your theater culture, I would say. I think there's a lot more communication going on between your generation of masters and young and middle-aged directors. It's a strange thing. I've been writing about this. I've been publishing some newspaper articles on this issue. So I want to say that I do see myself completely in this tradition, but to make a quote by Meyerhold, who said the good students, the good disciples are those who betray their masters on the aesthetic level. So it's important, if you see yourself in this tradition, in this line of tradition, that you don't become somebody who copies the aesthetics, who copies the profile. Even though I would say there are a lot of similarities. First and overall, the admiration for the art of actors. I think still in my theater, the actor is at the heart of Schaubühne today, and also in the 70s, 80s, it was a theater for actors. It was also a very highly, I would even call it scientific theater at some point.
What do you mean? Yeah.
For example, we all know that Peter Stein, when he did the mise en scène of Three Sisters, he's been studying the
Stanislavski, yeah.
Stanislavski diaries. So he kind of reenacted the Stanislavski performance, and that's what I would call scientific. Also, when it comes to the historical truth, like the costume, what kind of furniture, the spirit of the soul at the time. So they were really like going back to the history in order to understand 19th century way of condition humaine, while I'm taking these plays by Ibsen and trying to put them in a contemporary environment and consider the characters as if they were living today. That's different. That's a big difference. And another big difference is that Peter Stein never, as far as I know, he never put Ibsen on stage. It's bizarre.
Yes, probably. I cannot remember. And also, thanks to this online program, I missed. I saw some of your shows, which I missed in the repertoire in Berlin. For instance, Professor Bernardi, which was shown, and I saw it online. So, and since we won't have the opportunity soon to see your upcoming show, which was going to be premiered, maybe you could tell a little bit for me and for other people, but that's my personal interest about this work, because except of your name, everything is unfamiliar to you in this information. I don't know the writer, I don't know the title, there's novel, and maybe a little bit more wide question. I understand that this is the French material, and when I saw it on the site of the Showbiz, suddenly I understood that you have since several years a kind of this French period.
Yes.
When eventually I will write a book about you, so there will be Ibsen period, Shakespeare period, and some other periods, and this chapter will be French period. Started, correct me if I'm wrong, with Didier Ribon, with the Rückkehr nach Reims, so returning to Reims, when it was Edward Louis, Im Herzen der Gewalt, and then I know that you staged one more piece of Louis.
September, the 5th of September, I had Who Killed My Father, Qui a tué mon père, with Edouard Louis, and Edouard Louis performed the text himself. I directed him. Okay. He was the actor of his own text.
Yes, I guess it was supposed to be premiered at Find, which didn't happen. Yeah, right. and now this third. So it's a kind of already not trilogy but tetralogy. So please, could you tell more about this French period? Why it came to you? How does it develop? What is the future of this project?
It's very interesting. I agree that you could call it French period, because also in this period, since I did Returning to Reims, I also did a show at the Comédie Française, which was quite important for my work.
The 12th night.
Yes, 12th night, and to meet the actors and to have this incredible experience and this incredible success we had with this show, which again was important for my life as an artist in France. But there's no connection to me working this much in France and having a great and a big audience in our neighboring country. But there's no connection to the fact that all of a sudden I'm doing one French writer after another. It is really, I mean, Didier Ribon, reading this book, I read this book in the summer vacation without any thought of putting this on stage. It was a purely sociological, philosophical interest, political interest, why I bought this book and why I wanted to read this book. I discussed with Nina how we can talk about this in the theater. And I suggested to do Returning to Reims. And then this show, even though it had this incredible success, which is funny because for me it was only like a little work aside, you know. It was, okay, Nina, we premiere in Manchester. Maybe we bring it to the Schaubühne, but we will also, it's possible that we only have 5 performances in Manchester, and that's it. And then all of a sudden it was again, after years, a show which was invited to the Theatertreffen, even though it's not a very theatrical show. You saw it. It's a
yeah. It's very good show. It's a great
it's
show,
a good show.
I must say,
not theatrical. It's not what I was doing before and what I was, if you want, famous for. You know, this very big ensemble Shakespeare production, Richard III, with a lot of people on stage and adapted to nowadays times. It was a complete different kind of theater, but it was out of the political urgency. So there was and another show which came out of the political urgency was, of course, Professor Bernardi, which you just mentioned. So if you want, you could also make a trilogy of Rückkehr nach Reims, Professor Bernardi, and Italian Night by Horvath. So you could call this a trilogy on the rise of fascism and anti-Semitism. And then because of Didier, I discovered the work of Edouard Louis, and honestly, what is the reason for why I'm working so much with these guys like Edouard and Didier is because it's like, it feels like a branch of my family which was forgotten, which I didn't meet, like a branch of brothers I have in France, because all the issues they are rising, like the opposition of rich and poor, the populism, the homophobia, transphobia, all these issues they are rising are issues which I've been treating, especially the issue of the class reality coming back in Europe, and nobody else I had the feeling felt the same like me. And then all of a sudden these guys appeared in France. So Edouard, coming from a very poor background in the north of France, being raised in a very homophobic surrounding as a homosexual, fighting his fight, trying to find an identity. This has so much similarities with my own background. The only thing I don't share with these guys is that I'm not homosexual, but I feel as if we share all the rest. Also, what Didier is describing on his family with alcoholic father and very violent, and so there's so many similarities with my own background. And that's why I did these shows, and by accident they are all coming from France. So this is not because I want to do French writing. And then when it comes to the new show, Vernon Subutex, it's a bestseller. It's a very, very famous novel in Europe. In France especially, but also in Germany it had quite a success. It is written by Virginie Despentes, who also wrote a very important manifesto, which is called the King Kong Theory, who wrote another book, which is called Apocalypse Baby. And these texts, especially King Kong Theory, are very engaged and even militant feminist writing. And Virginie did make a movie 20 years ago, which is called Baise-moi. Was quite famous at the time in certain areas. Everybody saw this movie. And this book, I can only give you like the story in 2-3 sentences. It's about a character called Vernon Subutex, who was selling records. He had a record shop Revolver. And because of all the digitalization and the Napster and Spotify and this, he lost his job because nobody was buying records anymore. Then he survived for a certain period without social aid and so on, because he had rich friends, which then died. And then he loses his apartment and he goes couch surfing in Paris. So he kind of looks at his address book and looks where he can stay for the night. And then you get a panorama of French contemporary society. It's a little bit like Émile Zola in the late 19th century, like you have a big realistic panorama of the society. And then you meet like very contradictory characters, very rich people, very poor people, violent people, right-wing people, left-wing people, porn stars, all kind of different, very contradictory characters, and you get a portrait of our time. So the reason why I was doing this was, which is maybe the dream of every film director or novelist, to once in his life write something which captures it all, which is not one individual destiny, but which shows you a panorama of the society. And I must say, I'm pretty happy with the result. It's very lively show. It's a lot, as a guy in the center of the story was a record shop owner. There's a lot of music. We have a live band which plays a lot of early punk, classic, psychobilly, rockabilly. So we have covers from Dead Kennedys, from Cramps, from Sonic Youth, from Pixies. We have and we have an incredible live performer, guitar player, and singer. And it's quite an experience. We had one run on Saturday, and I got a lot of very positive feedback after the run.
Okay, I can just hope that one day all this will be over, and I will see it, as well as a lot of other Russians, because of course among my friends and among people, so the first question when they are going to Berlin, they always ask me what to see in the Schaubühne. So, of course, you are the most popular German theater in Russia. That's why I noticed in the Spielplan, in the schedule of Schaubühne, also the works of Simon Stone, yeah, and Simon McBurney. Yeah. So that's my question is, and it's an interesting question. How do you build up this company of directors around you? Because if you look at the Spielplan, you understand that Thomas Osтермайер is not a very jealous man, because he lets a lot of great directors also to work in his house, so he's not afraid of being less interested on the background of the whole company. At the same time, this company changed a lot since years, yeah, because there were other names, and Michael Thalheimer and Katie Mitchell. She's still there, but maybe Romeo Castellucci and Alvis Hermanis, and so on. And now it's more Simon McBurney, maybe
Simon Stone.
Who else? Simon Stone. Yes, Simon Stone. So how this changes, and how do you, according to which rules you form this? They are not officially house directors, as I know, but that's a kind of company. Yeah.
It's very easy to answer this question, because there's a very famous quote by Fritz Kortner. Fritz Kortner was a very important theater director after the Second World War, who was immigrated during Nazi time and then came back. And he always said, he was running Münchner Kammerspiele. He was the boss of Peter Stein. He discovered Peter Stein. So Fritz Kortner said, wenn ich der schlechteste Regisseur an meinem Haus bin, bin ich der beste Intendant. You're not only, when you're running a theater, you're not only responsible for your own art, but you're also responsible for the whole company. And you need to have the best actors in the landscape. So how can you convince the best actors of Germany to come to your house? You can only convince them if they work with different handwritings, different signatures of the art of directing and acting. That is what I'm offering to every actor joining Schaubühne. When I try to convince like really important, great artists, actors to come here, I tell them, listen, you can work with Katie Mitchell, you can work with Romeo Castellucci, who will be back. You can work with Anne-Cécile van der Lem. We are going to work with Caroline Nguyen. And also Simon Stone, Simon McBurney, and myself. So why I'm inviting these directors is also as an offer to my company, as we have a permanent company. The other thing is, I really enjoyed this. I must say, I enjoy the competition. I enjoy it so much to know, there's somebody coming. And I admire Simon McBurney is really my god of directors. He was so important for me when I first saw his shows, and it took me 15 years to convince him to come to the Schaubühne and to work here. But now I'm very proud, because we are the only theater where he decided to come back. So he was working a lot of times for the first time in a lot of theaters, but he decided also to work for the second time in Schaubühne, which means we also provide the directors here in the Schaubühne with a good surrounding, with a good artistic spirit, so that they want to work here. And honestly, I'm doing this job for 20 years now. So I am more and more enjoying the fact that, maybe one day I will see, okay, there are more important directors, and I have to step back. No, I don't have to prove anything anymore. No, I'm relaxed, and I'm very happy that I can provide other artistic teams with a good platform to work on. That makes me happy. And maybe I mean, as it looks now, because I'm always planning too much, but I could imagine myself to not put a play on stage for 2 years and only accompany other directors. I have so many plays in repertoire. I don't know, it's 15, 20 plays in repertoire, which are still touring the world. We were supposed to be in New York with Hamlet. First time was Hamlet in New York, never been showed in New York and in the States. We shown it in Moscow, I think 10 years ago.
In Territoria Festival, yeah.
Well, so New York is 10 years behind, as you can see. No, all I'm saying is there's so many in this Schaubühne of what my handwriting, of my signature. I'm really happy to provide other great directors which I admire with the tools of the Schaubühne.
Okay, you mentioned 20 years, and so you're going to probably to destroy, to beat the achievement of Castorf, which is 25 years as an intendant of the Volksbühne. I remember.
I think it was only 22.
90. From 1992 to 2017, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that we should check. But I remember several years ago we were talking with you and discussing that. You didn't ask my advice, of course, but we were talking. It was just the end of your contract, and it was going to be prolonged for 5 years more, and we were talking about how many years you should stay, and I was saying that, well, probably it's better to change, to go to some new places, because otherwise you are getting too implanted somewhere. And you said, but that's such a great place, and why should I leave it? And probably you were right, but at the same time, how do you see the future if you make some plans? So do you want to spend the whole life in this fantastic house you created, or what?
No. The plan for the future is, and here again I find myself in the Russian tradition, is to have a studio, to have a small studio in Berlin. I didn't find it so far. At the moment, I'm looking for money to build a little studio in the countryside. So I have a little land, 1.5 hours outside of Berlin, and I'm looking for sponsors to build a little studio for rehearsal, for workshops, for international encounters. Like a group of 15 actors, directors, international group, meeting with important directors of our times for a week or for 2 weeks or 10 days, and to work every day, to have, there's a small little hotel around, and they can live there, and in the morning they go over 2 kilometers of beautiful landscape, and then we rehearse, and then so that's I'm very much into this small scale, experimental, not a lot of institutional weight around, like really small scale experimental work. And I'm also looking for a similar spot in Berlin, like a little bit like the Baracke, maybe.
That's what I was going to tell you. So back to Baracke, because during the pandemic, I started to write a kind of, maybe it will be a book, but for the moment it's called Berlin Diary. So about my connections with Germany, with Berlin, and also when I was writing, it's also about Baracke, and suddenly I understood that how important for everybody who was somehow connected with Baracke. So for me, it was just several visits and maybe wine workshop and the festival. But for everybody who took part somehow in this project, it was very important for the whole life, because all the meetings which happened there, they influenced a lot on the whole life. And it's not about me. Everybody I know, everybody remembers it. So that's why I was going to say, so back to Baracke. So the future in the past, or the past in the future, educational. No.
Because in the Baracke, when I installed the Baracke, when I started in the Baracke, the idea was to pick up the tradition of the studios of Stanislavski and Meyerhold. That was really the idea. But we, and I don't want to sound arrogant here, but that's what happened. We had too much success immediately, because the idea in the beginning was we rehearse for months and months, and we make research, and we try to look at the masters of the 20th century again, to Meyerhold, to Artaud, to what's a Polish guy? I forgot his name.
Grotowski.
And to revisit and to make research on this method. We never found the time to do this, because the first shows we did had an incredible success. And also, that's linked to Michael Ebert, who was at the time the dramaturg. He provided us with all the English new writing. So we became, all of a sudden, we became a writer's theater, a theater for contemporary writing. That was not the idea in the beginning. And we had, and I agree with what you're saying about, remembering how important it was this time. We had a panel with Sarah Kane, where she was on the panel, but also Stephen Daldry was on the same panel, who's now an important filmmaker in the States, who, amongst others, made Billy Elliot, but also the director of The Crown, of this Netflix series. At that moment, nobody knew these names, you know. It was really that we were really on the nerve of the time. And it was a big change in German theater, because all of a sudden, German theater again was talking about the contemporary times, contemporary characters, contemporary plot, and not over and over reinterpretation of classics. So, but what I'm dreaming of now is a place where you don't have to perform every night. You know, in an ideal world, it would be a space where you maybe have like 1 month in a season, in a year, you can see shows. That's it. The rest of the time, it is research, it's meeting, and also one thing which is very important. I'm thinking about putting up an educational program for people who are in the job already. So for directors who are around 40, 45, 35, 40, 45, for directors who have a career, who were successful on a regular level, but all of a sudden do feel that they are hitting borders, that they don't know how to develop anymore, they don't know how to find inspiration with actors and so. Because I've been talking to a lot of theater directors of this generation, and they all share the similar experience. They've been working and working and working so much, like 3, 4, 5 shows a year, and they are empty. So
exhausted.
Exhausted. And so the idea would be to give them new inspiration and a training program over 2-3 months, maybe, with a scholarship of a foundation, of a Stiftung. And during these 2-3 months, they meet actors, they meet actors trainers, they meet physical trainers, they meet other directors, and they share this situation amongst them, and we all try to find ways out of this artistic exhaustion.
Okay, great idea and good future. So we have some more time. So I would like to turn to the questions of our students. Some of them are maybe naive, but sometimes I think you should also think about naive questions and not ignore them. So about the director, should the director kill actor in himself and vice versa, actor to kill director in himself?
That's a good question. I did not kill the actor inside of myself. So when I'm rehearsing, I'm a lot of times on stage and I perform for the actors to give them an idea of how I see the character. But when I'm teaching my students, I'm always telling them this is a bad director. You should not go on stage and perform for the actors. So in an ideal world, you would not do this, but I do make the same mistakes every now and then. Kill the director inside the actor? No, because sometimes I get very important suggestions from the actors. And these suggestions are sometimes also from the perspective of a director. And this nourishes my work, and it's very important. So again, in an ideal world, we would not care who's the director and who's the actor, but we would kind of all together try to find the best solution. And even more, maybe the director should go back on stage and perform with the actor, so that we understand what it is like to be an actor, and also to understand that some of the ideas we are making as directors are completely stupid, and you cannot perform this on stage. And I think it's very healthy every now and then to go on stage and to experience what it is to be an actor.
The question, it's my question related to your answer. What's your attitude to directing experience of Lars?
Well, Lars is an actor who kind of made an incredible way in the last 20 years. When he started here, he was directly from acting school, and I accompanied him. And I think what was even more important than working with him was the fact that for years and years we've been driving together to the rehearsal space, and our rehearsal space is far out of the city. So every day we've been sharing half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, and talking. And I think that was for both of us very important. And also I could implant a lot of my ideas without being a stupid teacher. It was more discussing the view on the world, the view on theater, and telling him, don't make this mistake, don't make that mistake. And then he could, without this competition of power in a rehearsal space, he could make his point, and then, no, but you know, this and that. So during lockdown, we had long conversations, which was a good thing during the lockdown, that we all of a sudden found the time to take 5 hours and to talk it all over and to discuss. And there are some contradictions between me and him. Sometimes I'm not happy with how he, especially with how he presents himself in public. But we can talk about this. We can discuss this, and it's an ongoing process. He is going somewhere. I'm going somewhere, and it's important. I think that Lars has the feeling that he is completely free in this theater, and not to tell him what to do, you know. That was also the reason for why we thought, okay, if you want to do a solo show without director, with a great fine artist, Jon Bock, do it, no problem. We are happy to provide you with this opportunity. So it's a very grown-up artist, which and it's with children, you know, when the children are small, you have to give them more instructions and tell them what to do in order not to put them at risk. And if you want to have a good relationship with grown-up children, you have to respect that there are independent individuals and that they are autonomous, and that they are autonomous artists. And as long as you can respect this, they will keep a good relationship with their parents, I suppose.
Yeah. Per Gynt is such a impressive celebrating of acting. Yeah. That it is. I remember it even now. It was fantastic experience. Although I can contradict a lot in terms of the theater show, of the structure and so of the professional things. But at the same time, you are completely overwhelmed by this acting storm, I would say. So it's really a great thing that he could do it. That you gave him the space and money and the stage to do it. Yeah.
Again, this is the same what we've been discussing before. For me, it's so important, or what I've learned over the last years, I have to step back. I have to give freedom. Of course, maybe there are moments where I don't agree, but I have to give every artist in the house to give the freedom that they can do whatever they want, that they feel free here, and that they feel, regardless of what they do, it will be presented to the audience. And The only issue where I would correct them would be political issues, if they go politically in the wrong direction. But aesthetically, everything is free.
What for you is politically wrong?
Racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, that's not possible.
Next question. This is the question which all directors are asked by our students. What's the main personal feature, which the main characteristic which a contemporary director should have to be a director, as I can understand?
I think you should be very, very sensitive toward the world around you. And that's a big challenge, because the world around us is dangerous, violent, and can hurt yourself. So what you really need to learn is be like a very thin skin between you and the world, which is important to find the stories which you want to talk about, to find the actors, to find the writers you want to work with, but not only in the professional field, also sometimes it's better to work with non-professional actors, for example. And in the rehearsal room, it's so important to be sensitive to what's going on. I think sensitivity for the atmosphere, for the energy, is the most important thing a young director should have, or any director should have.
Also, very popular question: is there any play, or maybe some plays, which you would like to stage and you have been thinking about since years, but never did?
Yeah. I think I was 17 when I read for the first time King Lear, and since I'm thinking about to put it on stage.
But you are going around, so Richard III, Othello, Hamlet. Yeah. So one day, so you are going closer and closer.
Yeah, it was scheduled for next year at the Comédie Française. But we had to postpone it because of the pandemic. No, but I mean, I think the answer is I would love to do at least 10 more Shakespeares.
10.
Yeah, at least. Not to say all Shakespeare plays, because The Merry Wives of Windsor are maybe not the play I would like to do, but 10 Shakespeare productions of 10 different Shakespeare plays. It should be, I mean, I never did the Scottish play, so I should do this one. And I had a great time doing 12th Night, so I should also consider to do maybe one or two more comedies of Shakespeare. Of course, I'm circling around The Merchant of Venice, and so on. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this place, each Russian should ask about Chekhov. You made Seagull, I think, twice, in Dutch and in French,
Yes.
But not in German.
No, because there are so many productions of Chekhov in Germany. There was a period where everybody did either Three Sisters or Cherry Orchard or The Seagull. And I cannot contribute any new perspective on the play in Germany. So yeah, but I must say I had an incredible, beautiful time doing the seagull, especially when I did it in France. There's a little film which we've been showing, which is called Theatre of Thomas Osтерmaier, Insatiable Théâtre en français, which is a documentary in French about the work on the seagull, which we've been showing in our online program during the lockdown. One evening we showed this movie, and there you can get an idea of the method I'm applying. And I always have a very warm feeling thinking of Chekhov, and I've been reading these diaries about Sakhalin, which was very important for me to understand the background. You know, this he saw the misery of the poor people, and nevertheless he's been writing about the upper class and the aristocracy and the countryside. That's for me a very interesting contradiction, or I understand more when I see it through this lens of Sakhalin.
So a lot of questions about your relations with Russia. So I can just come back in my memories for our work. 9 years ago already. 9 years.
Oh man.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes. And it was an incredible and fantastic and one of my best experiences in theater. This work in the Theatre of Nations on the Miss Jüli with Evgeniem Mironovым and Chulpan Hamatowai. Some years ago, so you were very strict in your decision not to come back here because of the trial of the theater trial, and what was the story with Kirill and with his colleagues. So, but I'm still dreaming of having you back here one day. So what's your, now today, a lot of things changed also, and in Russia, maybe not in the best direction, but also in the world. So what's your feeling today about the opportunity of working in Russia, your attitude to what's going on here, and to Russian culture and to Russian state? So this complex of questions.
Well, as you know, I've been making an initiative on change.org already some years ago to support the case of Kirill. And we've been reactivating this signature platform again when it came to the trial this summer. And we made a big demonstration in front of Russian embassy, and I wanted to hand over all the signatures to the ambassador. And the Russian ambassador told me I should send it with the post, and I told him I would prefer to give it to him personally, but he refused. So we stayed outside the embassy during the day until we got the information of the result of the trial. The result of the trial is very contradictory, because we're all very happy that Kirill is not sent to prison, but at the same time we understand that every artist in Russia since this trial knows that there is the threat of a similar trial if he crosses the border. And maybe if this artist is not as famous as Kirill, he or she will be sent into prison. So it's a clear statement of the court to say, okay, we are clever enough to not send Kirill to prison, but we are giving a clear sign to the artist community in Russia. And that makes me very sad, of course. And you know that I have a great love for Russia, for Russian culture, for the importance of the Russian culture in the history of the arts, especially in the history of the theater, but also literature, of course. I mean, there's so much important writing coming from your part of the world. And we have to be very careful to not give a wrong sign to the Russian community, to understand that there's a difference between the government and the people. And I think we have to give the sign to Russia that we consider Russia being part of Europe and being part of this cultural landscape. And Moscow is part of this cultural landscape of Europe. Moscow should be as close as Paris for us. Should be like a neighboring cultural metropole where we go, like we go to Paris or we go to London. But at the moment we are facing a future where we cannot go easily to London anymore, because London, thanks to Brexit, is drifting apart from Europe. And these forces where nationalism becomes stronger globally, it's so important that artists go the opposite way and insist on the fact that we are all human beings and that we are sharing nationality only by accident, because nobody asked us before we were born if we want to be born in Russia or in Germany or in France. Yeah, I'm pretty unhappy that I cannot go to Russia at the moment. I would love to come back, and I would be so happy if things would change in Russia to an extent where I can come back.
Okay, we have several minutes more, so maybe some important questions which repeat all this, especially now, about online theater and internet. So is internet the friend of the theater or an enemy of the theater? And what do you think about online activities, online theater, which develops a lot now because of the circumstances? So what's your attitude to this direction?
Again, I'm promoting constant change, and I think life is constant change. So of course we have to find ways and means to participate in this digital world, and we have to be inventive with digital ways of performing arts. We made the experience with our online program at the Schaubühne that there was a big interest for our work. We had 650,000 spectators online during the lockdown from the end of March till end of June. 650,000, which is incredible amount of people. But we also could see that in the beginning of the lockdown, end of March and April, a lot of people wanted to see what we've been showing, and then it declined. It got less and less. So digital theater is, for the moment of a pandemic, of a lockdown, an important tool to stay in the brain of the people, in the mind of the people. but it cannot replace the live event. And we are now, as we are going into a new lockdown, we are again putting theater online with the Schaubühne. This time the shows will be longer on air, because we had a lot of people from Asia or from South America and North America who said, for our time it's difficult to watch, so this time it will be 24 hours online, and everybody can watch it. But it is only like a instant version of theater.
Okay, so we have to go to the end of this conversation. So maybe you would like to say something to the young actors, directors from Russia, because you have been to Territory Festival several times. You know this audience now, they're invisible in front of me, behind the cameras, so I don't see them. But this festival is invented for them, and we are missing this year the students in Moscow, so they are somewhere, they're just watching. So what do you think the most important thing now for them?
Well,
for those who want to do theater now.
I think for the people starting in this profession, they are really to be pitied, because it's not a good moment to start this profession. It's the same with my students. It's a nightmare, it's a disaster, because in the moment they step out of school, no theater as a live event is happening. So probably what I would suggest here is, if they find a way with their institutions, that they can prolong their education, that they can stay one more in the institution, so that they are protected, they get their insurance, health insurance, and maybe some money to make a living, and wait 1 year more in hope that in 1 year the pandemic is under control or even over, and then they can step into a normal, or it won't be the same like before, but it will be better. Scientists here in Germany say that there's hope that next summer it will be much better, and there will be maybe a vaccine, but even if there won't be any vaccine, it will be better. So I would say for the students and for people starting in the profession, they should talk to their directors of the theater academies if there is a way to give them protection for 1 more year.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and for your participation, even online, in the Territory Festival.
And I'm really sad that we can't meet personally at the moment, and I'm also sad that I haven't been to Russia for so many years, and I really do hope for better days to come, where I can be again in this beautiful country, in front of this incredible audience you have in Russia.
Okay, let's hope. Thank you.